the great California Exodus. It is estimated that about 340,000 people left the state of California last year, whereby in Florida, we had about 1,000 people a day moving into the state of Florida. About 320,000 people moved into the state of Florida in the last year. So what's the impact with so many people leaving California and so many people moving into Florida? And what are the problems of that wealth, that population, that change to our state in Florida? Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Troy Funk, and it's Funk, F-U-N-K, Fun K. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of Florida. I've been a resident of Florida going on 40 years. And in that time, my focus is to give you value. And if I give you value, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and certainly hit that bell so we can stay in touch. So first off, let me start this journey with telling you where I'm at right now. I'm in an area known as Gillespie Park in Sarasota, Florida, and this is a very desirable area, and it has not always been a very desirable area. In fact, when we moved here, you could buy a home in here for under $50,000, and for under $100,000, you could buy almost any home that you wanted in Gillespie Park. Well, right now the price point is about 15x, and we've seen a huge shift in values in this location, in this neighborhood. And that's also happening in Florida because of all the changes that have taken place, especially in the last year, as we have had so much wealth transferred into Florida, and we have our population increased greatly in Florida as well. So what's happening in California? Well, California is a special place to me. This is my childhood. This is a place that means a lot to me, and as such, I've gone back to California many times to visit. And as a real estate agent, of course, I'm always researching the real estate market and what does that look like in California and what does that look like in Florida. Well, recently went back to California, and on my flight into LA, I noticed all the snow on the mountains, and that's kind of different because there's that song, "It Never Rains in California." Well, it never really rained much when we went there, let alone snow. And it was cold when I was there. There was snow on the mountains, and in fact, I heard that there was even snow on the Hollywood letters, but I couldn't see the Hollywood letters because the clouds were so low at that point. But I was in LA. I flew into LA, and I wanted just to get a vibe of what's the market like in LA? What would it be like to just stay in LA? And I spent the day walking the streets of LA and just looking at housing, and as such, it was interesting because in LA, you see a lot of homeless, and obviously that's a big problem with California. Is the homeless situation is horrific. But what was interesting with LA is you would see homeless people on the street with a chain link fence. On the other side of the fence is new construction in the millions. Well, you have poor and you have rich divided by this chain link fence, and that's all over LA. There is no middle class. I couldn't see it. I mean, if it's there, it doesn't appear to be there. It appears that either you're living in a multi-million-dollar property or you're homeless. And that's sad. I mean, it's sad because when we lived there, the middle class it was a place that you could afford to buy a property, that I can recall way back when. And then the affordability went away. And when the affordability went away in California, it never felt like it came back. Or at least that was my perception of looking at the market. And is that where we're at in Florida right now? Here's what I noticed in LA is that LA, think about the population of California, 1,000 people moving out of California. What does that look like? That would make sense that you would start to see the real estate market correct. Well, it has. And we are seeing adjustments across the United States where we are seeing property values fall. Well, it makes sense. It depends on where it's at though, right? Well, California, with that many people leaving, you would expect that marketplace to implode. Well, it is in certain areas, but not all across the board. So from LA, I went to where I was one of my favorite places in California, which is Santa Barbara. Now, I lived there from the time that I was in elementary to a couple years in high school. I know Santa Barbara really well, and I love Santa Barbara, and that's a place that I want to go back, and I study the real estate market in Santa Barbara, and I noticed that it's a very strong market. Even with all the craziness that's happened right now with interest rates going basically doubling in a very short period of time, we're having some very serious problems in the economy right now, and people are thinking we're looking for a crash, we're looking for this all to tumble down. Well, what I realized is even in California, we have so much population leaving the whole entire state that the nicest areas of the state, like Santa Barbara, are healthy. They're not seeing this huge decline in property values because people want to live there. And as such, there's still a supply shortage imbalance. Property values are maintaining themselves, but where there's other areas that we're not seeing the same situation. So an example, now after I left Santa Barbara, I went up to San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is also a place that's very special to me because we lived in the Bay Area till I was about 10 years old. And I visited San Francisco on a regular basis, and it's a place that I visited often as an adult. And I love San Francisco. It's such an interesting place. I think it's the most beautiful city in the United States by a huge margin. And it's a very interesting place, a lot of culture there. But after my visit to San Francisco, I was heartbroken because I realized I will probably never go back to San Francisco, not the way it is right now. It's not anything like I remember it as a kid. The homeless situation there is terrible. It's absolutely horrible. And it's to the point where my perception when I was there, I saw more homeless people on the streets than I did tourists and people visiting. And that has never been the case. And as such, you see a lot of homeless people doing drugs, sleeping, and it just doesn't feel safe to be in San Francisco. I think what was really sad to see was Fisherman's Wharf was boarded up. There were restaurants there. There was a restaurant there that had been in existence for 100 years that's no longer in business. And you see all these boarded up businesses, and you see an epidemic of homelessness. Well, that's not a real fun place to be anymore. And as such, I can see why property values are falling, and they're falling very quickly in San Francisco. You can see the numbers, and it makes sense. The population is going away. It's not an area that's desirable to live anymore. It doesn't feel safe. It makes sense that property values are going down in San Francisco, but they're not going down in other parts of California, not areas that do feel safe and not areas that people want to live. Well, we're experiencing that same situation here in Florida. Now, as I walk through Gillespie Park, this is an area that's had massive gentrification. Gillespie Park is a neighborhood with a lot of older homes here, a lot of history here that were just run down and not well taken care of. But the positive side is it was entry-level housing. There's a point where you could afford to buy a home in Gillespie Park. Now, the location of this area is very good because you're within a couple blocks to downtown Sarasota, and there's a lot of culture and art to this area. And what's unique about this area is all the homes are different. They all have a different style and look to them. There is no HOA. So if you want to paint your house purple, if you want to paint your house orange, you're good to go here. And as such, there's a lot of artists, a lot of creativity. And this is a really interesting place. The property values went up tremendously here in Gillespie Park. And as such, we are now seeing a problem which is referred to as post-gentrification, where the people that purchased in here to gentrify these homes can no longer afford to continue to do that because the property values are so high. This went from entry level to upper class neighborhood in a short period of time. Now, is California to blame for that? A little bit. They are, because they brought in a lot of population to our area and they brought in a lot of wealth to our area. And when that happens, those marketplaces go up. Now, this is a very healthy market. When you're looking at other markets across Florida or across the United States that are seeing adjustments or property values, they're happening in areas where I don't want to say they're not desirable, but the most desirable communities in California or in Florida are doing very well. There's a supply and demand. People still want to live here, and people, and you may say, well, but is this affordable? No, it's not affordable not to live here. Not anymore. It was at one point, but it's no longer affordable. So if it's not affordable, why would the property values continue to go up in this area or stay strong? Because the demand is here. because the demand to live here is here. It's not an affordability issue to live in the nicest areas, because the people that can afford to live there, it's not a matter of interest rates. It doesn't matter if the interest rates are high or low. They can afford to live here. So these are areas that do really well. And like Gillespie Park here in Sarasota. So the market has changed. So what else has California done to our market? Or can we blame California for everything? No, but let's just say that California brought us a lot of wealth. And with that, we have seen a lot of change to Florida, and a lot of nice things happen, and a lot of areas became much better. Areas like this, just the property values have just gone up so much. Well, that's happening all over the state of Florida right now. And a lot of people are upset. They're like, when will the property values go down? When are we going to see a crash? Well, to see a crash, we're going to have to see a massive amount of inventory hit the market that will not sell. And that's what we're seeing in San Francisco, California. A lot of inventory, a lot of areas where people don't want to live. A lot of inventory, buyer demand low, property values going down. Areas in Florida, same thing. If it's an area where people don't want to live, then you're going to see property values go down. If it's an area in Florida where people want to live, like this neighborhood, where you have a stronger demand than supply, property values are going to stay strong. So economic times are not equal. Just because we're in challenging times doesn't mean that doesn't mean that all property values are going to go down. This is a very healthy market. In closing, again, my name is Troy Funk. I'm a real estate broker in the state of Florida. I sell real estate all over the state of Florida. I have affiliations throughout the state. My specialty is to work with motivated sellers and buyers. And how I work with motivated buyers is I create a lot of videos that are very honest and real videos talking about what you should know if you're moving to Florida. And it's sort of the full disclosure, because Florida is not a perfect place to live. There are challenges in living with Florida, and it's something people should know before they come here. There's a lot of issues that people find out after they move here. So I create a lot of videos, and one of my videos recently hit 300,000 views. As such, I actually qualify people to say, look, if you're serious about buying Florida after you watch my video, then call me. My website, troyfunk.com. I sell real estate all over the state of Florida. If you're looking to buy in the state of Florida, I want to help you. I have a team of people behind me. I am the real estate broker. Appreciate your time. If this has been interesting to you, so again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope to see you on my next video.